Any opposed? Agenda approved. Study items. Oh, no, we need to do. Yeah, study items. Strategic planning, mission, and vision. Or do we need, sorry, do we need to do the summer school positions?
We do need to approve the consent agenda.
We did that.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I'm saying. It's included in that, right? Okay. It just looks weird. So study items, strategic planning.
All right, that is me. Cue Chris. I'm going to share my screen. And tonight we will not be joined by our consultant. I'm going to navigate us to the best of my ability and give us an update on all progress that we've made in regards to strategic planning. So this is our board meeting update for tonight. Our focus tonight is to review progress we've made. So these are our core values, vision, and mission, and also provide feedback on the emerging portrait of a graduate. So this is not finished work that we want your feedback on. And then review and provide feedback on the draft goals and priorities. We think we've made some really good progress since the last time we've met. We're looking for just some additional feedback here. Okay, so core values. These are the same 5 core values that we've seen with the same definitions. Nothing new is here. However, I want them to be displayed and reviewed and just take a moment to skim through it to make sure there isn't any items that have either gone missing, awry, or does not fit or land the way you want it to after you've been away from it for a little bit. So I'm going to pause for a minute and give you a moment to review. When you feel like you've reviewed, give me a thumbs up so that way I can know that we are ready to move on to our next thing.
Chris, are we able to give feedback, or are we just
Absolutely.
I'm just concerned if this is purely grammatical, the integrity, just the way that's worded, the "we do so" in the last sentence comes off strange. And I'm thinking that this is going to last for more than a couple of years. And so I'm just curious if that could be wordsmithed in a little bit different way.
I would suggest, since this is a very staccato set of sentences, in contrast to these very long sentences with a lot of modifiers, that maybe we combine the third and fourth sentence, "we act with transparency in order to build trust with the community," or somehow enjoin those so that we have, instead of 4 really short sentences, which contrasts with these much longer sentences, we figure out a way to maybe combine those.
I like that suggestion.
All right, I have that on my official Post-it note. All right, let's take a look at what's next here with our vision statement. Again, this is a vision statement we're very familiar with, so this should feel right at home for us. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready to move to the next step on that one. Beautiful. Okay. Now, our mission has gone through a number of revisions, so I want you to take a moment, review it one more time, and to see if it still feels like it's landing like that you want it to, and that you like it to. Beautiful. Okay. Glad that that is working. Now, here's an update on Portrait of a Graduate. So here's some work that we've been doing through both our steering committee, through our cabinet, as well as working with our building principals as well. When we think about a Portrait of a Graduate, what we're trying to do is figure out what, when we think of those hopes, those aspirations, an MRH graduate is, or will be, or we're striving for this. It's going to look on a sheet of paper similar to this one that you see on the screen that has the G at the top. Well, ours will obviously be very MRH-y, but we can see that we've got a description as well as some words here on that one pager that tells a story of who an MRH graduate might be. And of course, we're trying to narrow this down to no more than 6 words or phrases with descriptions. So with that work, we've done some feedback from our stakeholders. You've seen this Wordle before of all these different things that an MRH graduate is. And we have funneled down into a couple buckets of different categories into these 4 characteristics of an MRH graduate. Now, I will tell you, the original word that is at the very bottom was empathetic. However, for alliteration's sake, it made sense for us to focus on the 4 C's, and we went with compassionate. We do know that this is going to provide a little bit of an obstacle to make this a consistent one-pager when it's finished, but we think we'll trade off that with the opportunity to make it memorable that we know it's 4 C's. So with this, we took these 4 words and then created draft definitions. I'm going to pause here because this is work that we absolutely have to get feedback on, because this is the first time you've seen it, and it has gone through a couple of iterations. And we will also get feedback from our steering committee, which happens next week. But I wanted to take a moment, present that to you, and seek some feedback. So this is not a thumbs up one. This is a come off mute, and let's make sure that we've got some thoughts and ideas aired around these ones.
I'm wondering about in the collaborator section, we use work twice. And I wonder, will they assume shared responsibility for collaborative outcomes? Is that a way to expand that it isn't just work that gets applied, but that it's maybe a broader concept there? I don't know if others notice that repetition and were bothered by it.
I hadn't gotten there yet, Amber. I was still stuck on, of them, I have to say collaborator's the hardest one to wrap my mind around. Chris, do we have more information that might help me hear where this is? I think I understand where this is coming from, but I'm not sure it's coming across the way that it was meant. So can you help talk a little bit more about the collaborator section?
Sure. Without it being jarring, I'm going to flip back a couple slides. So go with me. So if we look at here at some of the bigger items, what are some of the words that jump out that sort of fit under the umbrella of collaborator?
Inclusive, globally conscious.
We see like courageous, leader, we see those sort of things. So I think the idea here is that we want to have the opportunity for students to work, maybe not necessarily with somebody that they 100% get along with all the time, that they understand their perspectives, but they can work still together to a shared goal or a shared objective, trying to find that way, that selflessness, if you will, in the collaboration, because we do know that the world they're going into is a global society. So recognizing that they're going to need to collaborate like this virtually, with people that they might not know their backgrounds, their cultures, their experiences.
We also spent some time in cabinet when we were discussing collaborator, to really drill down to that collaboration does not mean that you always agree with the individuals with whom you're working, but that you are working towards a shared goal, task to complete, and that those individuals in the groups bring divergent thoughts, divergent beliefs, but they are to work together to achieve that. And so that was something we spent some time talking about during cabinet as well.
I'm going to flip ahead now. There we go. See if we captured that in that definition, or if there are words missing in that.
Rachel, can I ask, is the word opinion a sticking point for you? Or is
No, I thank you for asking, and thank you for all that information. That's really helpful. I think what's helping me is I'm skipping the first sentence and I'm looking at the MRH graduate. I assume seems strange to me. So I'm using words that work for me, but they don't necessarily have to be changed. We'll be able to do collaborative work, shared responsibility. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on to see, for me to wrap my head around it. I really like when we talked about all the words and we talked about the behind the scenes. It's not quite coming like this. In my head, I'm thinking of a group project in a high school, and I don't think that's what we're going for. We're going for that ability to collaboratively work with other people, and with what you said, Chris, working with different people to do things together, regardless of if we agree or don't. We're going to be able to listen. We're going to be able to build together, and then we're going to share the responsibility on a finished product or a finished thought. That one feels like it needs a little bit more work.
Chris, I grabbed some of the feedback that Rachel was sharing so we can take this back to cabinet on Monday.
I was thinking too about adding backgrounds and possibly beliefs to that one, because they are, well, Chris, the way you kind of described it, that stuck out to me when you said backgrounds. I'm like, well, yeah, so I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but it kind of felt like that's missing in that one. And then under communicator, what about adding advocate? The reason I'm suggesting that is because I'm thinking of our learners who are shy about necessarily speaking and potentially writing, but there are other ways to still accomplish that goal. We in the wake of, we just had a walkout, and that to me is also a form of expression, or communication. So that's just a thought.
I even liked your phrase there, a form of expression. Like if we just pause on that phrase right there, maybe there's something that comes out of the definition for communicator. I like that. All right, any other final thoughts here? All right, are we okay with the alliteration, and being okay shifting empathy to compassionate? Okay, I just want to make sure that that's something we can rally around, because I do think that there is a shift a little bit in that definition However, I do think it'll be more memorable and will stick with people longer.
I think also to add, Chris, we were talking about how do we ensure that our youngest learners understand the difference between empathy and compassion, because as you think about the development of executive functioning skills, is a pre-K or kindergarten students going to fully understand empathy and putting themselves in other peers' shoes or others in general? And we talked a great deal about compassion and how is that taught, and the use of the counselors to share through the guidance lessons ideas around compassion and really making the connection to text that they read or the lessons that they deliver to students.
That's a good point. Young children tend to be very good at compassion, though. I agree with you. Empathy, maybe there is a lack of understanding when you're super young, but one thing I think we can all learn from our young kiddos is compassion.
Which also speaks to, I think, the definition does a good job of making sure that we don't call it sympathy or even go that route. It is very clear what we're hoping for our graduates to be in this world. All right, let's move on then, if we're okay with that. All right, fantastic. So these are things you've already seen. So I'm going to go through these quicker because you've seen these before, but I want to make sure that they keep coming back up both in recorded fashion here, but also for review and make sure that we're heading down the right track and down the right path. So again, what we're looking for is we've got some key priorities, key priority areas, key priority indicators at the top with some goals associated with this along the way. The work that you have seen is that we've got these 5 sort of buckets, if you will, for our key priority areas. And we're focusing on our students, our health, our people, our resources, and our community. Now, with those, we've drafted belief statements, which are entirely too small to read on this screen. So we're going to enlarge them onto the next one and talk specifically around each one. So where we are kind of right now in the process is we've created this bucket, which is for our students. And with those, we've crafted goals underneath each of them. So for the first one, equip all students with the flexibility and adaptability needed to be successful in ever-changing world. And the conversations were happening centered around those different goals. There's, okay, how are we going to measure that? What is going to be our outcome as a result of the work that we do in those different areas? And that's where we currently are. So we're taking these words and tying them to metrics and specific action steps. So I'm going to pause for a moment for our students, just so you can see it again. Obviously, if something is way out of whack, please make sure that you say that something's not landing right. But I will just give a pause for a minute and then look for a thumbs up that I can move on to the next one, because we have 4 more screens.
And while they're looking over those, Chris, just a note too, is he talked about the KPIs or key performance indicators. We are also aligning and crosswalking those to the MSIP 6 standards to ensure that we are measuring the things that we already have to measure, and then also looking at how do we deconstruct those down into schools as they develop their building improvement plans.
All right, I'm moving on to for our health. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready, or if you have any feedback.
I just want to say I find the word workforce to be a little cold and depersonalized. I'm struggling to think of a better word for that, although I know HR professionals probably have some in their arsenal. Our people, but how do we say that in a more specific way?
I mean, employees are employees.
I remember when I got a shirt that said staff on it, and I'm like, great. Thank you, Ms. Withicum. Ready to move on?
I'll just add, it just popped in my head. Some people call them talent instead of workforce.
I like that. Got that down in the notes.
I like talent too, because I think workforce limits us. Because there's all kinds of ways to contribute. You know, I because I own a business, I don't necessarily consider myself workforce, but I still am contributing in that area, right? And we're not limiting them to go out there, just be whatever, you know, whatever you dream of being, and contribute in whatever way you dream of being. So I like that talent.
All right, here's our people.
Oh, and it pops right at the bottom. So Rachel and Brandy, you guys, it's at the bottom. It says talent. Oh, we need to do that at the top.
All right, 2 more when you're ready.
I'm crazy here, but the word top bothers me in number 1.
I agree. I was trying to think, is it like retain like values aligned talent or something, you know, something along the line?
Or why do you have to qualify it?
Yeah, you can just
Well,
say talent.
Not just anybody can work here.
Beautiful, thank you. For our resources, remember, resources can be everything from our facilities to our buildings, to our grounds, to our financials. Remember that this is sort of an umbrella when you're looking through these.
I'm not familiar with this term future proof. Is it meant to suggest that our facilities will evolve and adapt for the future? Or won't have to evolve and adapt because they exist in a future state?
So I think one of the things that, and Dr. Dietrich was working through this, and we talked about in our coaching meeting, sustainability. And so we actually are going back to modify this one. I don't think we got to it quite honestly, but that was the same question I asked when we did our one-on-one. And he is very passionate about our sustainability efforts. And as we think about what makes us MRH, that is a huge piece of it. So we talked about how within our facilities do we ensure that our sustainability efforts are evident. So whether it's through lighting, looking at windows, whether it's looking at the use of paper utensils versus biodegradable ones. So we'll be making an adjustment there. So I think that one's one we just didn't catch.
It is actually, I looked it up. If something is future proof, it will continue to be useful or successful in future if the situation changes. I'm not sure that that's a term most of us are familiar with. Maybe there's a more direct way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, can we just use the word sustainability? Sustainable, that doesn't like appear here, maybe.
Comprehensive and sustainable facilities plan.
Got it.
I'm just seeing this here too. I get the point of having specific goals, but I also wonder if facilities plans need to be reviewed annually or if they just need to be reviewed regularly. And, you know, maybe regularly is too wishy-washy and maybe reviewed doesn't necessarily mean like a gigantic process, but that might just be something COA should consider.
All right, are you ready for your last one? Okay, here we go for our community.
And number one, I'm thinking it's supposed to read and identify. Is that right?
Yes, thank you.
I really struggle with, and I know that it is a common phrase, but this idea of a destination district. I really challenge the notion that I think our Department of Education and our state legislators have created a situation where we are in competition with other public education institutions. I resent having to play into that construct. But again, I know that it is a commonly understood label.
I agree, Katie, and I think it also reinforces this idea that all families have the privilege of being able to choose their district. And I don't want us to be differentiating ourselves from districts that may not have families that can choose that, because we are all part of a whole in our region in spite of our fragmentation. And this idea of people moving themselves around in pursuit of a better public school system or a better job at a better public school system, we know that that's the reality, but I don't know that it's something we want to be encouraging as part of our identity.
So what if we just took destination out? It still reads, I think, the way we want it. The whole point of a destination district is a high level district.
Yeah, I think that's.
Or if there's a better word, but I think you can take it out and still have it.
I agree. It reads
Yeah, I wrote
it out.
I wrote down, a district with a strong identity. And then I sat and I was like, it makes sense just to remove it, because if you are that, the rest of it reads and it communicates exactly like you want it to. All right. Any other thoughts on these? Not, I will wrap this up. Okay. So here's next steps. What's going to happen now that we have these post-it notes of feedback and Dr. Jamison's list? We've got work teams that are revising our priorities and goals based on feedback to develop KPIs and initiatives. We're going to be taking this feedback from tonight and our work that we will do Monday at our COA meeting on the 10th to our steering committee that will be on the 13th. We'll make any additional revisions and bring it back to the board on May 18th, and we should be pretty close at that point in time. In fact, scheduling some time to meet with the graphic designer so we can start crafting what the final document looks like and what all this is going to look like in the end. So it's a very, very exciting place to be and time in our district to be a part of. So thank you for your feedback and taking the time to review these. And we are excited to see you in May 18th with a beautiful updated resource. Any other questions and things you want to know about?
I just want to say thank you for all of the hard work you put into this. What you have brought us is amazing, and I just really appreciate everybody's hard work on this.
Second.
Absolutely. I do have a quick question. I'm assuming we got a lot of really actionable and helpful feedback from our focus groups. Is there going to be an opportunity for us to leverage that elsewhere, or to review it at a high level? If indeed it is useful feedback, I think, you put a lot of effort into bringing people together and hearing a lot of voices. And I wonder if that would be something useful for the board to be able to digest.
So there are,
Yeah, and I'd like to.
I was going to say there
Go
are
ahead, Dr. Gray.
two, just to kind of jump in, because with the approved work with the consultant, he's working with Ed Rich to develop a platform or session that community can come and hear the milestone, kind of a check-in. We haven't quite determined what that looks like yet. And so we talked about the structure of that and having board members present to be a part of that conversation. Also, the individuals who are part of the steering committee, so that community can hear where we are. Ed, did you want to chime in and add anything in regards to that?
Well, I'll mention that just 3 hours ago, I met with that consultant for about 45 minutes. And we had a preliminary discussion about timelines and releases of information and packaging of information. So we're going to meet again next Wednesday, and I'll be smarter. I want to run some things past the central office administration first thing Monday morning before we begin to kind of fold the Board of Education into the process, but we're well underway.
And then the two other pieces just from my role, and then I'll allow Dr. McGee to wrap up. I will be presenting an overview at both of our city councils for Richmond Heights and Maplewood so that they can have the information. And then once completed, we'll have some information included in their mailings that go out. So, I'm appreciative of the partnership and them including school district information in the mailings and their postings on the website. So those are two areas where we have already identified as sharing that information with our community.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick one more time, because I do want to highlight the fact that if you have not had a moment to check out, if you go to our website underneath programs and strategic planning, one of the things you'll notice here over on the left side of your screen is the focus group feedback. So if you are interested in knowing more about what was said at any of the focus groups, you can see the slide deck and access the folder of content. And in that folder of content, you have feedback, and you can see what our community has said about every one of our core values, our portrait of a graduate, our mission, our vision, and this is great actionable information for us. So I just wanted to say that is available for our community. It's available for our board and for our workforce. Talent.
Thank you so much. That's perfect.
Thank you. Okay. Board policy, AC, Dr. Jameson.
All right. So on March 16th, the board approved a resolution to protect the rights of our students and staff who identify as LGBTQIA. As you're aware, Missouri does not include sexual orientation, gender expression, gender identity as a protected class, nor does the Missouri Human Rights Act. We do have, as a result of St. Louis County Council's approval of legislation to protect those individuals within their employment roles, which adds some leverage for those within our community. But as one of our aims to support our staff and students, I thought it would be beneficial for us to also modify our current board policy, which is board policy AC. And so currently I have it up on the screen. We are seeking to strike the word sex from the beginning, where it talks about our role in ensuring that employees and our students are not discriminated against, harassed or retaliated against. So by removing the word sex, we are able to focus in on sexual orientation and or perceived sexual orientation. And as I reviewed it, I also thought about the idea of gender expression or gender identity, but we went with removing sex as the modification. My thought in bringing this to the board is that if we modify this policy to support our students, their sexual orientation, as well as their expression, it will be another important step for MRH as well as our board as we work to create a safe and inclusive learning and working environment of our students and staff, regardless of their gender identity and or their expression. So if the board does not have any questions, this item will come back later as an action item if modifications or additional changes are not suggested. At this time, I welcome any questions you may have.
So just to clarify, you will be adding gender identity or gender expression as well?
I didn't initially, but when I started going back to look at it, I was hoping to add gender identity and gender expression. So we will remove sex and add gender identity, gender expression to this.
Great.
Any other questions?
Just thank you. Again, this is very important. And I wish this was a national policy, but I'll get into that later. But I'm just appreciative that, we have a policy that shows our students that we support them.
Thank you. We'll make the adjustments to reflect the changes to include gender expression and gender identity to this particular policy as well. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Distinguished awards, Ed Rich.
Hello again. So on April 27th, we will celebrate all things us at the employee recognition event. We will, we have 5 people retiring with a cumulative 128 years of experience at MRH. We will celebrate people who have years of service and multiples of 5. We will celebrate the Teacher of the Year. We will celebrate the Support Staff Employee of the Year. And that brings us to tonight. There are 4 categories 4 categories of awards that the Board of Education selects. There used to be 5. Last year, we did the Support Staff Member of the Year, but of course that got folded into a district level thing, which it rightfully should be there, I think. So the categories that the board selects are Advocate of the Year, and the description of the parameters of that are on the agenda. Spirit of MRH, Family of the Year, and Citizen of the Year. And I hope this go around, making your jobs easier, is that none of the nominees in each of these categories has received this honor, and I think only one of them has been nominated in the recent past. So we don't really have any conflicts with recent awards. So they're all fresh, I guess. And I'm pleased to say that this year we actually received multiple nominees in all categories, and that doesn't always happen. So I don't know if you're looking for advice on how to go about this, but it seemed to work last year that if one member made a nomination, there was some discussion. And then go from there, but I'm not sure I can tell you how to do it. So, and I don't envy you because these are some amazing people. So,
By far, I am flummoxed by the Advocate of the Year. I'd like to pick at least 4. I understand that is not how we work. That is where my problem is lying, is I have 4 that I'm ready to pick right now. So what are we going to do, peeps?
I really don't know. I mean, I'm with you. It's lots of great candidates. And how do you pick one? How do you pick between them?
if I were going to say something on behalf of a couple of them,
Could we maybe start with an easier one than
Oh.
that first one? I mean, we have,
Oh, I love it.
just ones where there aren't so many nominees. I mean, I think if we start like maybe from the bottom up too, that might just be easier too.
You are so smart.
Get us
I
warmed
go
up.
for it. Absolutely.
Start with Citizen of the Year.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know either of these people. So if anybody has some extra, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I don't know Mr. Wyman, although obviously like quite a write up there. When I saw that Pastor Kim was nominated, it actually made me think about, I think certainly she and the partnership with Maplewood United Methodist Church and the Freedom School that they've run the past few years is noteworthy. And there are maybe other members of the congregation that I might amend this to rope in, but I also recognize that kind of, again, it's a sort of a, Kim provides the leadership and the shepherding that maybe the various community and congregation members are then executing on.
I wondered if she was the pastor of Maplewood United. So yes, they do a lot more than what is in that section. And so that could probably be if expanded and then compared to Mr. Wyman. I just know that, whenever we've need space, whether it was for Booster Club or Girl Scouts or something else, they have always offered the space. So.
And Dr. Jameson, aren't they collaborating to create an after-school program?
They are. I didn't know if I was able to chime in or not. So we actually meet with Pastor Kim and other members of the congregation, which includes administrator from the middle school and also administrator from the ECC. And the goal is to expand services, but also thinking about those individuals who are in critical need. And I think for me, not being biased, but the focus on the equity piece for me is what resonates, and being intentional about that. So we have potlucks and we meet and we plan, but it not only benefits the students within our district, but they are thinking beyond just tutoring, but they're also thinking post-secondary. So for students who are actually transitioning through, the conversation that we've had, inclusive of that includes mentorship for students who go, to ensure that they not only go to college, but that they matriculate through.
Okay, how do we amend it to include, I think it needs to definitely say Pastor Kim, but then also mention the church maybe, or just to show that it's a collaboration as well.
Can we say Pastor Kim and the congregation of Maplewood United Methodist?
I like that, because I do agree. I don't know who said it, because as soon as I saw that, of course, another person popped in my head, because there is a dual relationship with another member that's not necessarily listed there, who supports the work. So I think Katie had mentioned it, and so I didn't know.
I mean, I think unfortunately we probably can't pay for every member of the congregation to attend our event for free if we award them, but maybe there's a representative or something for.
Is it appropriate for us to, because I don't know,
These are our awards, we can do whatever we want with them. That's why some years there's 4, some years there's 5, some years we pick somebody who isn't even listed here. We can do whatever we want.
So Ms.
One year you made up a category just on the spot.
Exactly.
I remember.
So that's helpful. The other person that works closely with Pastor Kim that I'm aware of as we think about partnership is Ms. Kuntz. So the communication, the invites, the sharing of resources, that would be the other person that I'm closely working with as we think about the partnership with the church.
Yes, and that's also who I thought of immediately when I saw this nomination, and there may be others too, but I think they're probably the faces of this partnership.
Sounds like we're in agreement. Can we move? So now we can go on to the family?
No, we need a nomination, I think, officially. Is that
In
correct?
action items, yeah, we'll do the discussion and then.
Okay. Okay, so then we go to family, Rachel.
Okay, cool.
I want to acknowledge the great work that John Charlton has done for our staff. We saw on the next block over from my house the direct impact of the bank supporting our teachers, and that was really exciting to see.
Can I just throw out, so I agree, Amber. And when I first started going to the chamber meetings, not that I needed one more thing to do, but that's how those conversations came up. And he asked a question like, what do you need? I said, well, I need my staff to have the ability to purchase a home, even if they can't afford it in MRH, because it's taxing to try to, especially if you have a one family household, to be able to try to buy a home. And he contacted me probably in December and said that he got everything approved. And we do have a number of staff members who are currently taking advantage of the program that he developed.
And he developed it specifically for educators.
Is one of the groups. It's also first responders, but the conversation stemmed from the ask of being able to support our teachers. He's also looking into whether or not support staff members. We talked about social workers. So I met with him a couple weeks ago, and that was the added ask. So if anybody knows anything about me, I don't mind asking several different ways. But I did kind of reiterate that it's great that our teachers can take advantage, but we also have social workers who technically wouldn't fall under the auspice of teachers, and then also our nurses and things like that.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that category? Okay. All right. Spirit of MRH.
Oh, this is a long list.
It is.
It's a very they're all very different. It's across the district. It's very, yeah.
It
Right.
also goes across roles too. So when I was looking at it, it's not just like administrators, you have teachers, you have Discover Club workers. So it does make it difficult.
Have we ever, Ed, had a Discover Club worker get it?
I'm looking right now. Stand by.
Well,
Didn't
this
we-
particular Discover Club worker, isn't he alum? He's alum, and he's been, I mean, I got high schoolers and
Sure.
he was my kid's Discover Club worker.
Yes.
I mean, so he's been
with us
around.
for a long time.
Yeah.
The answer is in 2010, 11, Betty Pearson was the spirit of MRH. So
I think I remember being told that and something about a cowbell.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, she was last year too, but she wasn't
All the Discover Club.
right. Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So as we look at the description for the spirit of MRH, it says this person can be found supporting MRH in a variety of ways throughout the year. Is that, so for me, that stands out because if we're talking about the spirit of MRH, you can embody it, but how does your actions go outside of what you're doing within your role, your building, et cetera?
Yeah, I think
I know this is crazy. Okay, so can we add people?
you have
No.
a last minute nomination. Go ahead.
You
Well-
can, except we already have a lot to talk about.
Well,
we did have a set nomination period. So
Ed, were you on that list, Ed?
Ed, can you tell us that we created a category that one time?
Well, I think Ed was on the list. Not that I'm putting him on the spot. Ed, weren't you nominated and did you take yourself off? See, he's
Mr.
not-
Ed Rich, you took yourself,
Probably.
you
If
took
he
yourself
was,
off.
he
Les.
always
You're
takes
always
himself off.
taking are you on this list and you took yourself
No.
off?
No, that's not the case.
I thought somebody nominated you for something. I guess the thing that stands out for me where it says the person can be found supporting MRH in a variety of ways. So when I think about the spirit of MRH, and I know we can't add Ed, Ed is doing Kwanzaa, he's present, so that's it's beyond, the role that you're given. So he does things outside of his role. And I think that's where I'm stuck when I look at the rationale for the individuals that are listed.
Are you saying we can't nominate him because he won't accept it or because the nomination period is closed? Because I think I heard Katie say we can do whatever we want.
I heard that too, Amber.
He probably wouldn't accept it because that's just who Ed is. But I just wanted to throw that out there, and that's what I see, because I think probably in my own very small thinking, I'm stuck in that line. Like, how are you giving back to MRH collectively?
Ed, don't you just kind of want to help us get it over with? So you don't have to go through this argument about being nominated every year? The only way to avoid that is to let yourself be nominated this year. And,
I'm sorry, Ed.
I would really, really enjoy seeing someone else. To me, the person, spirit of MRH, I think of Vince Estrada, it's that person is the Uncle Sam of MRH. They wear the hat, they fly the flag, they live it, red, white, and blue, or blue and white in this case.
Has he had it, Ed?
He got it last
Yeah,
year.
he has. I'm just saying that's, he got it because that's,
Right. Yeah.
So our nominations, you'd let us know if nominations were doubled. Like these are people have put in these nominations, but we don't know if multiple people have nominated the same person.
I would have noted that, but no,
Okay.
that was not the case. No
Okay.
one was nominated multiple times. So,
Okay.
If I had to say something about a person, I will say that Heather Jaber, while the description there is not as vast as the contribution she makes to the elementary school, she does do a great deal. So she is a person that I would think about. So was there a caption limit on these, Ed? It's like,
no.
I'm glad I don't have to pick.
when's the last time an SSD
Mm-hmm.
team member was selected?
Stand by. I'm going back to 2008. I see a name that I don't recognize who could have been SSD, but I don't know. But other than that, no. All-
Could I offer that we maybe move to Advocate of the Year? I think we actually created Advocate of the Year not that long ago. I think partially because there was some like overlap with Spirit of MRH too. So I'm wondering if there might be the discussion there may elicit some clarity.
Oh man, these are some tough ones.
Yeah, these are also very impressive.
Oh, glad I'm not you. So man,
I'm gonna go ahead and nominate Melissa.
do I get, so that's,
I support that.
I
nomination.
would as well. Yeah.
I would as well.
she's fabulous. I mean, her work with our students and alt services, I was on wait to see what I heard or not. I mean, she advocates in various forms, the work that she's doing. See, somebody didn't put enough. I should have nominated some people. She's currently doing some work with her team on competency-based education because she recognized that the pandemic had impacted kids in such a way that the traditional way that we educate them is no longer working. And so she's visited schools, they've created a proposal and really looking at deeply immersing students into an apprenticeship model where they're out in the community or in at the community college, acquiring some skills and habits so that they can experience success when they transition in. She is one of my favorite humans. But this is a hard category.
Any further discussion on that one? Okay. All right, I guess we're going back to Spirit.
We're gonna be here.
Let's wait. Let's go back to Advocate just for a second. Ben is also somebody that we should probably talk a little bit more about. I mean, they're all a great list of people. And I wholeheartedly go with my nominee, but Ben's been around for a long time. I'm curious if what we would think about.
Nominating him for the Spirit one.
I don't know. Yeah, or vice versa, make Melissa the Spirit and Ben the Advocate, or
I think that's a great idea.
I don't know. Is the Mr. Rogers of MRH the same as the Uncle Sam?
I'm going to throw out that on the night of this event, Ben will not be there because he is being celebrated with a very high and newly created award from Special School District. So,
Wow.
so if it rains, he'll be just fine at the DoubleTree Hotel in Chesterfield. While we're all getting wet.
I will say that Dana Isom is one that resonates for me, particularly as we talk about our diversity, equity, inclusion work. She has the intestinal fortitude to have the conversations that others won't have and advocating for people who won't advocate for themselves. And so I think somebody did put that in there and I did not look at that, but she's one, and she also is present on a variety of committees. She's part of Dr. Ambrose Phillips' Affinity Group, but she is not afraid. And sometimes having some of those conversations are hard, but she doesn't advocate just for herself. She advocates for her colleagues. And it's not just about race. It's about roles, whether or not there are inequities between student support staff and certified staff. She would be one that I would lift up too. This is so hard. Yeah. But
Does it sound like the Spirit of MRH? Well, as the president, I'm going to select somebody to pick in about 30 seconds. It's my last act of presidency.
you're celebrating over there. She's like, yay. Has there ever been, just out of curiosity, has there ever been a principal and or an assistant principal
For which category, please?
For
We
Spirit
keep
of
Spirit. In the 2021 school year, the Spirit of MRH was awarded to Dr. Cindy Hebenstreit.
I like the idea of actually, I think somebody said Melissa as the advocate of the year, and then looking at Ben Gleason. Does that mean we can't recognize him because he won't be there?
I mean, we can.
We can do anything we want. He just won't be present. So.
Well, and the reason why I would say he would also be one, I think about our focus on family engagement. So everyone knows Benita Jameson is a beggar, and he has been inspirational and a huge part of us getting additional resources into MRH. So that would be one. And then the other piece I would say is the family engagement events that we have had this year. He has developed and facilitated those without any extra ask for me. I was like, hey, we need to get involved, but he's also on several committees and contributes greatly to the work, and is beginning to implement a lot of the ask from me regarding how to improve the level of support that we provide, not only to SSD staff, but to the students who occupy our classrooms. So these are all very difficult ones.
As part of doing anything we want, can we, for example, do Ben and maybe Thomas?
What about Melissa as Spirit? And I'm hearing the case being made for Dana as Advocate, potentially.
I
would do that.
Mhm.
And we can certainly acknowledge Ben for his big SSD award too.
I think that's all a really strong
I feel
lineup
like
of
we have enough,
nominees. Yeah.
information for moving to action. Yeah.
All right, so we're done on discussions on those. Okay, action items, board policy, AC. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve board policy AC as modified.
Second,
All those in favor? Somebody writing this down?
That's on here.
Just making sure. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion on the distinguished awards for Advocate of the Year?
I move to name Dana Isom as the MRH Advocate of the Year for 2022-23.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion for Spirit of MRH?
Move to approve Melissa Foos as the Spirit of MRH.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Family of the Year.
I
Move
move to
to-
name, oh, go ahead.
Move to name the Charlton family as MRH Family of the Year 2022-2023.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion for Citizen of the Year?
Move to approve Pastor Kim and the congregation of Maplewood United Methodist Church as Citizens of the Year.
Second,
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? You want to do it, Amber?
sure. Yeah, haven't done it in a while. I move to enter executive session in accordance with section 610.021 subsections 3, 9, and 13, and section 610.022 of the revised statutes of Missouri on April 6th, 2023 for the following specific reasons: personnel matters.
Oh, second, and a roll call.
Roll call, yeah.
Ms. Goldsman,
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman,
Yes.
Ms. Withicom,
Yes.
Ms. Herndon Miller.
Yes. Okay, I believe the link is in Board Docs, is it? Yep.
Yes. Yes.
So I will see you all in 2 minutes.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
good. All right.